Based on my collection, it's pretty easy to tell that I am a fan of comic books, especially in the superhero variety. But in a similar vein to that, I also have a soft spot for some nostalgic themes as well that aren't necessarily comic books, even if I wasn't in the era they were in originally. And I thought it would be fun to kind of combine these two different interests, with one of these figures being Phoenix Customs already, with their version of Lino from the Thundercats here, fitting in a lot closer with the He-Man figures here. This was a collaboration with Gold Bricks or Tier 1, and has some interesting molds. I have seen this online a lot and finally got a chance to pick this up. I actually bought it from Phoenix Customs himself. So let's go ahead and check this figure out on the stand. And here is Phoenix Customs' version of Lino, featuring a very cool molded sword with printing on both sides. It is the exact same printing on both sides though. I feel like maybe one of the sides should have been mirrored so the logo faces the same direction, but not how that went. You can see right there, that's the exact same print as the one on the torso, so they probably got a little bit of reuse out of that pad. The hairpiece is kind of nice. It doesn't actually have a lot of molded detail, just kind of, it's a blob. On the back, you can see that the alternative face does peek through the bottom a little bit for some reason, even though they could have just molded it a little bit lower. And the hairpiece is pretty loose on there, so you're not going to have an issue getting it off. So you do it with one hand. I do like the expression here being a bit more neutral. The red eyes definitely peer out a bit, so it's a nice little contrast from the lighter orange yellowish color there for like the sort of tan fur look. On the arms, there's a little bit of muscle definition and a patch there, so a little bit of extra detail. Same goes for the legs, side printing and front printing, but nothing on the back, nothing on the inside. Pretty typical of their older style for when this figure came out. Do like the details on the back. They definitely fit with the rest of the character aesthetically wise. And I'll definitely say like the medium-ish blue on the light blue here is a good use of color for those subtle muscle lines and detailing. Same goes for like that darker orange on the ab area and the arms. And I already kind of mentioned it, there is an alternative expression, which has a much more angry look. And one little detail I didn't notice at first, but there is a little bit of a black line at the bottom of the eye, so that's a nice little detail, I'm sure, based off of the original show. But it's always fun to see these old figures and just seeing where they are now, where it's just kind of crazy how much detail they actually are getting into each figure, especially at a smaller scale. For a character like this, where it's a comic book or a cartoon, it is pretty easy to simplify it and just put out the bare minimum, just because that's what you need, and that definitely is what happens here. I personally don't see anything that screams to me like, oh, this is incomplete. I guess having the back of the legs printed would have been nice, but if you just have it displayed with the front view, you're not even going to notice that. And overall, pretty happy with both molded accessories. I feel like the hair could have had a little bit more definition or shape to it, but the sword is cool. Printing on that also looks great. And it's cool just to get a nostalgic cartoon character like this in the collection. And I would love to get more 80s, 90s cartoon characters in minifigure form, but without that being said, let's go to the comparisons and the final verdict. I think it's always kind of fun to look at these older figures just to see how a customizer's style has changed over the years, with two of Phoenix Customs kind of contemporary figures to when this came out. They did have some extra detail like the arm printing, and even Lino here had the custom molded hair and sword, which was not something he always did. You did try to stay more in the actual Lego parts of that era, but this was a collaboration, so I'm sure Tier 1 wanted to have more detail and a higher end figure. But I kind of appreciated back then when it was a lot closer to Lego style. The details were only there when they had to be, just to match the character. The arm printing, it is there, but it isn't ridiculous with a bunch of different detailing. And then you compare that to the more modern Phoenix Customs figures, where it is just all detail, and you're basically getting a Hot Toys figure in a miniature form. And obviously, that is where the market is now and what people want, but the prices just keep going up, and it would be nice to go back to some simple characters like those 80s, 90s cartoon era characters, or even just back to comics. He did release a collaboration with a Goodfella for their original appearance Wolverine. So it's not out of the picture, and it's kind of fun. Like I already kind of showed off some more cartoon characters. I don't have any G.I. Joe characters, otherwise that would also be in this comparison here. But what a fun and unique character, and I'm always buying stuff that's a little nostalgic, even though I wasn't in the era watching that show really. But I don't think people are really going to be putting out figures like this again, and especially not the detail of this Phoenix Customs one. So I had to get this version. If you want to see more Phoenix Custom reviews or custom LEGO videos overall, check out all the videos on my channel. I've been Brick Radiopp, and I'll see you in the next video.